What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's King Narakami here, and today we're going to be talking about 4 things Persona fans should know before starting SMT 5. So sit back, relax, and let's get it on. What's going on, guys? King Narakami here, and I've got a special guest with me, and we're going to be talking a little SMT 5 and what Persona fans need to know before they play the game. I got DavidCast JRPGs here. How you doing today, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me on. You're doing great. You mentioned SMT 5, and that's a good in my book, so I'm glad to be here. It should be fun.
We are, 2 weeks almost away from launch? And man,
2 weeks, and it was announced in January of 2017. Crazy stuff. Think about it for a sec. I just turned 18 when they That's crazy.
Holy shit, we're old.
Yep.
But I don't think these people want to hear about how old we are. I think people want to hear what they can expect from SMT when coming from like Persona games or if they're their first SMT game. So I want you to start off with your first reason, David.
All right, that works. I have two, and as you mentioned, and I have a bigger one, a smaller one. So I'll start with the smaller one, and it's in terms of the length of the games for completion. Now, if you guys played the Persona games, you know how long they are. You know that, like, I know we were talking Persona 5 Royal. That game is like minimum 100 hours. It can be way longer than that. P4 isn't on the shorter side of things, but it's still like 70 hours or something. Well, in terms of mainline, and obviously we don't know what SMT5, what is the duration yet, but we can expect it to be at least in the same range as the other mainline games. SMT 1 and 2 you can beat in more or less 30 hours. Nocturne is a bit longer, that's like 40 something hours. Strange Journey as well. And for Apocalypse, they're under 50 hours each. Apocalypse a little bit longer. Apocalypse is almost 50, I would say. Those are average, obviously. So I expect SMT5 to be along those lines. So I would say maximum 50 hours average to beat SMT5. Way shorter than all the Neo Persona games. So that's my first point.
And I think that's a great point to mention because people fail to know. I mean, yes, a big part of it's going to be you're going to be grinding a little bit as well. But I mean, that's SMT is just a different beast than Persona. You're not going to slog through thousands and thousands of lines of dialogue and have every single character get their input onto something. That's one of the issues I had with Persona 5. But moving on, one thing that people should know before they play is actually the press turn battle system that is in the SMT games. It started off with Nocturne, it went into SMT 4, and this press turn battle system is a really cool mechanic, and it's a way different thing than, you know, your typical Persona 3, Persona 4, Persona 5. And those games, if you exploit an enemy's weakness, you get to attack again and possibly even exploit them again with the same move. In SMT, I mean, if you attack an enemy's weakness, you might get an extra turn, but there's no guarantee your next teammate might be able to make a move. There's a lot to the press turn battle system, and it's a great topic to talk about. It's my favorite battle system of all time in any game. If you want to check out a more detailed explanation, I have actually a tutorial that I'll link right up here, right quick, that you can check out, and we can talk more about it. But what do you think, David?
Yes, it is the best combat system of all time. It's just so great, and I was glad to see that it's back in 5. So definitely a solid pick there. In terms of my second and last point here, it is for the characters. I want to talk about the characters a little bit. Obviously, this point is directed more towards the Neo Persona fans. So like Persona 3, 4, and 5, more than 1 and 2, but it also applies to 1 and 2. In most of the mainline games, the emphasis on characters is not negligible, but it's like not as important as in some of the Persona games. Obviously, P3, 4, and 5, you have like social links, you have your calendar system, you spend hours just talking with characters on the side, not even in the main story. Well, in terms of mainline SMT, there's still an emphasis on the characters, especially in, like, not as much in games like Nocturne or I would even say Strange Journey, but in like 4 and especially for Apocalypse, it's there. And looking at the trailers for 5, it seems to be there as well. Just don't go in expecting your social links or your social interactions on all of that. It's very different how they tackle characters, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's different, works, and it's great. And I honestly, dude, those differences that we're mentioning, they're what make they are what's great about those two series. I like to play the Persona games, and I also like to play the mainline games. I don't feel like I'm playing the same thing, and it's a good. So honestly, characters, that works.
They're similar, but they feel like their own thing as well.
Exactly.
As much as people want to compare them, they're their own entity, and that's what gives them their identities. Each series has their own identities. The last thing that I want to mention is actually the endings for SMT and Persona games. So, in your typical Persona game, you have one linear way of doing things. If you get a bad ending, it just ends like that. It can end really quickly. You can finish Persona games pretty fast if you choose bad endings sometimes, especially in like Persona 5. But in SMT, it's more of there's an alignment system. Almost every choice that you make matters in what ending you're going to choose. For example, a Nocturne. Different reasons end up different ways that you could see the world when the game ends. It doesn't end like that because of one reason. And if you choose a specific reason, the game might even have you fight a certain secret boss at the end. There's a lot of different things. Even if you played Catherine before, that kind of had an alignment system as well. Different endings, multiple endings, and it just doesn't end right there.
I think what Persona's doing with less options is still good, because it's a linear game, and you end up at at the end of one path, and it's great. It's obviously, as you mentioned, there's the bad endings in some of the games, and that's good. In SMT, it's all of your actions and it's all of your decisions that you take throughout the whole game from start to finish that decide what ending you have. In SMT4, you have to do some freaking side quests to get the neutral ending. That's just really good. And honestly, I prefer a game like SMT where your choices matter a ton, or a game like SMT where your like Persona, where your choices don't matter as much. I like one of the two. I don't like in the middle. In certain games, you have like some obvious choices, and they clearly point you towards a certain path. In SMT, it's not as clear as day, and I like it. It's just not in the middle.
It gives you freedom. It gives you a lot of freedom in doing what you want.
Exactly.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yes, and sometimes when you get through the end of the game, SMT4 comes to mind, and I'm not going to spoil anything, obviously, but what some of your companions, what they say to you is replies to what you said to them multiple hours before in your playthrough, and that feels so good when you're playing. You're like, I see what they did there. Mm-hmm. That's related to what I told them. That's so cool. In some other games that are not Persona or not SMT, it's just, okay, I'm at the end of my path because of the decision that I took. It doesn't feel as great. It doesn't feel as rewarding. I don't know if I'm making sense here.
No, you make perfect sense, David. I think it's great. I think that's the perfect way to end this discussion right here. Now, before we go, I actually wanted to talk about one more thing, and we didn't even talk about this before. This is straight off the cuff right here. But for Persona fans that are just getting to the SMT series, do you think that SMT 5 is going to be the best way to get into the series? Or would you rather recommend, Nocturne or even DDS?
I want to say possibly, simply because I don't think there's a perfect spot to start with SMT. It's not like, well, even Persona, but in Persona I have my ideas. I have my, I know what's a great place to start more than in SMT. It's debatable with mainline. So I think it has the potential to be the best place to start. It's definitely going to be accessible. It's on a very recent system. It's a system that's out there that a lot of people own with the Nintendo Switch, almost at 100 million systems sold. So it's going to be accessible. So at least it has that. It releases on an entry install base. In terms of the game and gameplay and stuff like that, we don't really know. We already know that there's going to be difficulty options, so I think that's going to be good. They restarted certain things. The Cathedral of Shadows is not there anymore. They changed that a little bit. So they're not, I don't want to use that word, but they're kind of rebooting certain elements with the series, but still keeping other things. And I think that leads me to believe that it's going to be a great place to start, but I think we'll have to wait and see.
Definitely. Thank you, David, for being on this video. This has been 4 reasons and an extra little bonus one at the end. 4 things that Persona fans should know coming into SMT5. David, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me on, man.
Anytime, man. And we'll see you guys on the next video. King out.